Good morning. It's 9 a.m., Monday, November 21, 2022. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is to review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Santos. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is items with County Engineer Brian Horowski. Morning, Brian. First is discussion and possible action to approve the purchase of one Ford F-550 medium-duty truck cab and chassis.
Yes, so there was a quote in your guys' packet. The F-550. This is just a cab and chassis. The intent of this truck is to eventually replace our Unit 22, which is a flatbed. We used to use it for signs, and that's kind of been repurposed over the years. But this truck that we're speaking about today will hopefully replace that one. We're still working on exactly what we're going to get for a bed. We know we want like a Tommy gate and some other features, but we're still in the works on that. So,
But probably going to put a flatbed on it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. What's any type of an idea on lead time on a machine like this?
They're thinking if we can get our order in now, they're thinking June, July, somewhere in there. So 6 months.
That's well quicker than I thought it might be.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Santos, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. What else do you have, Brian?
I wanted to give a little bit of a project update as far as on the engineering side for our projects that we hire out. We've pretty much closed up shop for the winter just due to weather conditions. Some of the projects that are going to get carried over to next year are the pavement markings. That'll start up probably April, May, whenever conditions are fit. And then probably the most notable one is our HMA resurfacing project, our maintenance job. They did get Bayfield Road done, and it did get painted last week, I believe. But the rest of that project will get carried over to next fall once conditions are fit. So North Isaac, 180th, and Steel Mill will get done next spring.
Okay.
So
Very good.
that's all I had.
Brian, I had a question for you real quick. On the 5-year construction program plan that you guys have, last time we had a discussion when we were looking at 2024. Are we still proposing on doing Stewart Road in 2024? Is that still a potential plan, or is that moved out?
I would have to check. I'm guessing it's probably going to get bumped a year at least.
Okay, thank you.
I can't answer that for sure, but that's without in front. That's
So
where I'm
when-
guessing it's going to go.
In your projects that you shared about in regards to like just the example about pushing that one out, are we still updating then the 5-year plan for the construction programs?
Yes, it'll get updated.
So that'll get updated, and then more than likely you'll probably look at that plan on Stewart Road.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next is discussion and possible action to approve resolution 11-21-22-01, transferring funds from the county attorney's fines collection fund to the general fund with county attorney Jim Berry. Morning, Jim.
Thank you. Good morning. Again, this year, you may recall last year, we transferred about $100,000 of funds from that account back to the county general fund, and as we prepare for a budget again next year, we had some excess funds, so after discussing it with Nancy, I decided to take $25,000 of the monies in that account and go ahead and transfer it back to the county for use in the general fund. The code, since we collect it through the county attorney's office, allows 5% of those collections to be maintained by the county attorney's office and spent by the county attorney. My predecessor maintained a healthier account than I would have, and my feeling is it's the taxpayers' money, so I maintain a bit of a reserve. The idea is around $10,000 in that account, and then the rest of it, my intention is to come back to the county for use, for county uses. So I just wanted to share that with you this morning.
Okay.
Very good.
So I'll move the approval.
Motion by Jeff, second by Doug.
Doug,
This is a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
I vote aye. Santos?
Aye.
Doug?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you,
Jim.
Jim. Next is discussion and possible action to order a recount of the state auditor race from the November 8th, 2022 general election with County Auditor Tybee Vanderlinden. Tybee?
That can be dismissed. We did not receive any filings for recounts. The deadline was Friday, November 18th at 5 PM, and none were filed.
And that was the only race that was in the, close enough that would be considered for a recount.
Yeah, some counties did get the filing
They did
for
get,
that
there
actual
were some
race,
counties
the
that got
state
filings.
auditor race, but Muscatine County and many other counties that I heard through email did not.
So we can just table that motion? Or just,
Cross it out.
Yep.
They can't
Cross it
submit
out.
again,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're
so,
done.
yeah, okay.
didn't get one, don't need to do it, okay?
Don't need to do it. All right. Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the November 14, 2022 regular meeting and minutes of the November 15, 2022 special meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Santos. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Jeff, do you have anything?
Nothing to note.
I had nothing to note. Santos?
Just emails in regards to the right angle gear that arrived for the pump station. The information that Amy had sent out from the salary study that they were looking at, and some information I think from the lower watershed that they're going to be having a meeting next. I think this week, I believe, or not next week.
I'm not even going there. I messed
November
the dates up.
29th,
I messed the dates up so bad.
November 29th is when that is. And then just some information in regards to the housing study as well too. That's all I have.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything? Nothing? Okay. Any committee reports, Jeff?
No, no fees left.
None? On Wednesday the 16th, I had Riverbend Transit. On Wednesday the 16th, I had Board of Health. And on Wednesday the 16th, I had the bi-state meeting as well. That's all I had. Santos?
On the 14th, I had GMCCI for the Economic Development meeting, and on November 17th, I had the West Liberty Economic meeting, monthly meeting for that one.
Doug, you have anything?
Wednesday the 16th, I had Wilton Development, and yesterday we had the Festival of Trees at Fairgrounds. We had a pretty good turnout for that.
Good, good. Okay, next is items with the administration office. First is discussion on possible action to approve the appointment of Joseph Harper to the Historic Preservation Commission to fill a vacant term ending January 1st, 2023.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Santos. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next is discussion and direction regarding a funding request from the City of Muscatine for a housing study.
So,
Do you want to talk about this?
yeah, I can talk about it. So, in 2016, 2017, the housing study that was done in Muscatine in regards to housing that's in the city. What we've done since the Housing Council has been coming together is discussion on looking at quantifiable data that comes from these housing studies. Some of the expansions that we've seen in the city of Muscatine, examples that just opened up, those Colorado apartments, steamboat landings, come from some of the funding that was given from the state in that funding. So in those housing projects, probably 250 units have been come from that data. The housing study is basically going to be providing everything for the full county, not just the city of Muscatine. And so what we're looking for is trying to find out if there's a way that we can help fund that study that would then end up providing actual a study that's not just going to be including Muscatine, but it'll be including West Liberty, it'll be including Wilton, it'll end up providing data that they probably can't fund. There's not a lot of studies that basically get quantifiable data for a full county, and so this will, I think, also then help us when we start looking at funding from IEDA and IFA to try to get housing projects moving forward. So that's the estimate that they had when we first started talking about this last year was about $25,000 that it would be from the housing county portion of it that would then again qualify the whole county. So I mean, it could be Fairland, it could be ended up anything that's outside the county. So
I don't recall, I know, and I'm trying to get dates, but Wilton Economic Development did a housing study, and I don't remember the years, and I don't think they've done an updated one.
no, they haven't done one.
And they've done activity, and that's always good, and I know West Liberty had one, but I don't know who funded that, if it was the economic development or the city. My question would be, who would coordinate this and who would, kind of.
Right now, we basically are gonna be going out for quotes on getting that. When we had first had it estimated, it was gonna be $75,000. Now, again, that would be basically the city would pay their portion and then we would cover 25 of it for the rest of the county. Coordination, we're leaving that with the city that is doing the contract is what I would assume. Now, once we start getting, the groups that are gonna be working to do that study, they're gonna be reaching out to the city administrators of those communities is my assumption. But when they do those studies, those take about a year.
Yeah.
Sometimes even longer, depends on how much the data that they end up getting. Now, when we start, I look at it just from a long-term standpoint. If I can say, hey, they came up with 250 units from just being able to get that data, because when you apply for some of these grants, they want data.
Yeah.
And if we can't provide that data, then to me, that's more the challenge that comes back from that. So,
Yeah, I was pretty familiar with the Wilton one, and I know they've taken a lot of action from it. And the West Liberty one, I'm really kind of cloudy on. It was done probably many years ago, I think.
I wouldn't know.
And I
that
think
any of those
Short
were done.
Street was kind of a result of that over there, some of the initiatives. But I don't know who funded it, how it was funded. I think it's a good thing to do. I mean, clearly, you've seen where we're getting a lot of IFA and IEDA
Yep.
is very interested, because in Muscatine County, we've had good success in investing those dollars, and I think the last time Debbie Derman says you bring us really good projects.
Yeah, and I think that's really the long-term type of information that we're gonna be able to provide. And when we start looking at the workforce housing projects that we're looking at, it's not just that this housing study is gonna provide data for assisted housing. The Steamboat Landing, there's no assisted in those units. Those are all basically workforce housing. So when we start focusing on saying, hey, we wanna help develop West Liberty, we wanna help develop Wilton, that's really the charge that I think that this data can be helping us provide. Now, again, we're talking a year and a half from now, possibly by the time we budget that and they end up getting those quotes, but that's what I think that direction is gonna come back. So when you guys go into budget next year, then you'll have hopefully some data from Jody and her team and say, hey, this is the ask that we're
So,
having.
do we know, or if anybody has any kind of time frame, when are they looking for this commitment? And then my question is always on budget.
Well, and that's why this is on the agenda the way that it is, because this was not something that was budgeted. Our process has been, when we have a funding request for something that's not budgeted, we do the public hearing process to allow public input before we make a decision. And so I think they would like an answer, the city would like an answer from us as soon as we are able. So if you guys give me direction to do so next week, we'll put an agenda item on to schedule a public hearing, hold the public hearing 2 weeks later, and then you can act on it.
We're like just about midway into the current budget year.
And they may not need it until, if we go into the next budget year, we can
Well, the
ask.
question
I
is
don't
what-
know that answer yet.
That's
You
what I'm
know.
wondering. 6 months goes by pretty quick.
And by the time they get the quotes and then they say, hey, we're gonna start focusing on the city of Muscatine, and then you budget, and we say, hey, we give it to them August 1st. I don't know if
I would
that's
prefer
gonna be
to
an issue.
consider it in the budget process is where I would prefer to consider it. If that delays getting the work done, cause I'd like to talk, Ken Brooks has been pretty involved with the housing initiatives that are going on everywhere. I haven't, Becky, I know Wilton Economic Development's pretty involved, so I don't know who the right group is, but I wanna make sure we invest, the dollars invested go to all the community.
Well, it would cover the whole county. Now, the challenge is that they didn't, they just shared that to us that I asked literally a year ago, hey, where are we at on some of this stuff? Because we've been asking, where's this housing studies at? Now I think they're focusing on trying to do it next year. So when is it next year? My best assumption would probably be they would be having it probably in the spring starting, so.
Okay.
But again, we can ask, if you wanna put a public hearing on there and then see if we can push it onto next year's budget, I think that would be ideal, but I think we can ask
So
those
is that
questions.
my direction is to,
Check with Joe, maybe
Tell them that
check
we
with
prefer
Jody
to-
Goodwin, just
Yeah.
Jody Royal Goodwin's
Yep.
taking care of.
yep, that's who I've been
So I would just
communicating with.
check with her and see what kind of timing, and see if we put it into the budget process, would that jeopardize the project? If not, I would
And if
prefer
it
to.
does, then do you want me to put an item on next week to schedule a public hearing?
If they gotta have it, I think that would probably be my thought is to try
Next.
to get it budget.
To schedule the hearing, but not the public hearing.
No, next week would just be an
We just
agenda
set the
item to
date.
set a date.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, that would
And then
make
we'll have
sense.
more information on when they actually are going to need those funds.
And it would give us an
Yeah,
opportunity to reach out to the outlying communities to make sure that they're aware of the initiative and they don't have other plans in place already.
Oh,
I don't know of
if they
anything
are.
going in Wilton or West Liberty.
Yeah, I
concerning
would like
that.
to know, when the date is they think they're gonna need this, because I have a hard time believing that 6 months away is not a workable number. 7 months.
Yeah.
But I think it could be,
Yeah.
but, we need to ask those questions, and we did not ask. those
Okay,
any of those
so
questions.
at this point, I have direction from 2 board members to check, and if they need the money before then, to put an item on for next week to schedule a public hearing. Now I have 3, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just curious, on this study, are they, in general terms, I think for the public here, are they looking at just what the needs are of these?
They draw pages and pages of data from like how many people actually work here, how many people are traveling into the city, how much dollars are used. I mean, it covers an enormous amount of data streams that can ultimately, again, be able to be used when you start applying for funding mechanisms through the states, through federal dollars. That's the biggest, I think, opportunity that comes out of that. And so when we start saying, hey, this is what's happening, this many people live in Wilton but work in Muscatine, or this many people live outside of Wilton or outside of Muscatine County, but yet they work in Muscatine County. That's the type of data that helps IFA or IEDA say, hey, this is why we're funding a $7 million project for this many new housing projects in Muscatine. And that's really the advantage that comes out of that. But when you look at those housing studies, they usually take 12 plus months to get all that data.
Okay. All right, very good.
Yep.
Next is, review tentative FY 23-24 budget calendar.
And that was included in your packet. I guess I'm just checking to see if anybody sees any major conflicts now.
I think
Well,
it
the
looks
only,
great.
the only concern I have is we will have a fairly new board, a lot of new faces. And on the 23rd of January, the third Monday, is that the third? Will be the, I don't know whether I always have the Eastern Iowa Mental Health from 3 to 5 in the afternoon in Davenport on the third Monday of the month. So that would
Okay.
be, maybe, I don't know which, well, I can confirm today.
Well,
We-
and I will say that there's a number of dates on here that we should, thank you. There's a number of dates on here that we show all day. In previous years, we've not had to go all day at all. Typically, we can, other than one of the first couple days, we typically are done by 2 at the latest, usually by about noon. Now, I realize we have some new board members, so that process may take a little longer.
And I'm trying to remember the mental health budget, Kayla, do we have that wrapped up before ours, or is that kind of simultaneous? Because we're probably in budgets there too.
I think it's simultaneous.
Yeah. let me check on that. That would be my only concern, is that I'd have time to get up to that meeting, cause that's usually pretty important that we're there.
And you think that's the 23rd?
It's always I don't know, it's
The
always the third Monday, and I
The
don't know.
third Monday is the 16th.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be the 16th or 23rd, if they'll consider since the first is, are they considering that a holiday where they push it, but typically they're exactly the third Monday.
Okay, well, and we certainly can, and we have done some adjustments to this in the past.
Well, that may
Other
be
than
one.
we can't really push it back any farther than that and still meet our requirements for the state.
That one be, maybe I could just leave early too if I had to, that's not a big deal. Okay,
Okay?
I'm good. But that I didn't have any issues.
All right, very good. Next is action to accept November payroll claims.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion by Joe, second by Santos, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion passes. Anything other, Nancy?
The only other thing is I wanted to let you know that for a number of years now, probably 15, we have had a handgun purchase assistance program for our deputy sheriffs. Under this program, they select a gun, it's approved by the sheriff, we purchase that gun, and then we do payroll deductions over up to 2 years for them to reimburse us. It's been an incredibly successful program. We recently had a situation come up where we have a couple of conservation law enforcement people one of them wants to get a new gun, and there's one that's just going through the academy and starting in January, and then we'll need a gun. So I've created all the paperwork and expanded that program to include those conservation law enforcement people as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in that situation, the conservation board will approve those purchases as part of the paperwork in order for me to initiate the process.
Yeah,
Good.
Okay.
very good.
Good.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Next is receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board? Morning, Eric.
Morning. Something's touched on this. I just wanted to remind you that it is Tuesday, November 29th at West Branch. Town Hall will be the rollout of the Lower Cedar River Watershed Management Authority, our comprehensive plan. After a lot of delays with funding and COVID, it's done. We're going to unveil the official plan. We've got our coordinator hired. This is the meats and potatoes that really allows us to start looking at projects and go for funding. So if anybody's interested, that's 5:30. It's a public rollout of that plan. We'll meet and greet, presentation, and followed by our normal WMA board meeting. So anybody that's interested, new board members, current board members, if you want to get up to speed on that, you're all welcome. We're supposed to pass that along. On the conversation with the housing study, we are rapidly approaching the time where we probably need to take a look at our comprehensive plan. I think it was last updated in 2014. We've had some discussions in the recent past over, rezoning and what our comprehensive plan says. So I was planning on budgeting for that, but now I'm wondering if we're gonna be looking at or participating in a countywide, that is probably a really good source of data that would go into a comprehensive plan if it's gonna look outside the city. So I'm wondering if it's not appropriate to kind of see what the schedule for that housing study would be. And I would hate to put together a brand new comprehensive plan and then not have that data, because that type of data is commonly used in comprehensive plans.
Yeah.
How many people are coming into the county? What are our current needs for housing in the unincorporated areas? And so.
Yeah, and target areas that are likely for development, likely for annexation, all that kind of stuff.
That's key right there, because if there's identified needs in some of our smaller incorporated towns where they are, look to annex or expand their corporate boundaries out, that's the opportune time for us to look at our fringe areas and zone those appropriately. There's great advantages to being consistent with communities, our plan, their plan. Obviously, we're gonna maintain some independence on our things, but with infrastructure like sewer and water, we've seen through the last few years where that's a big thing, paved roads. So I'm wondering if we shouldn't hold off. There's gonna have to be a couple zoning amendments we gotta get taken care of, some things that are outdated we need to clean up. But do you think we should wait on a comprehensive?
I would rather wait. I mean, it's gonna provide us very good data like we talked about, and that's the quantifiables, the stuff that really matters for
What are,
us.
what are our code requirements on that 5-year updates?
I don't believe there's an actual code
There's no code
requirement.
requirement, so,
No.
so we've typically been about 5 years, right?
Well, it's been since 2014. I want to say it was,
Yeah, okay.
around there, 5 to 8. maybe-
Date.
Almost 10.
I want to say it was 2009-ish before that, wasn't it? Maybe. Last time it was even
Yeah,
earlier than that.
Earlier than that, I think.
So we typically go over 5 years on
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
But it's time, you know, you guys know a lot of our subdivisions are pretty well filled up. We haven't had any proposals for large development, you know, in the county,
Yeah.
but just a lot of things have changed since we last.
Yeah, but I think in a conversation when last, I think that, you know, that buildable lots are a problem now in Muscatine County. We don't have a lot available, subdivisions or whatever. So I think it's probably time we look at the comprehensive plan, cause I know we've had issues, you know, we have issues with roads, road maintenance. We've had issues with, you know, one of the things that I've always been frustrated on is, you know, the cities have the right within a mile or 2 miles, right? To look at, when we permit a subdivision and stuff, and, you know, what are the inspections, and are they built to the drawings, and generally, that's always a question, and, you know, how, you know, I view that as a taxpayer protection. If you have a code and you're accepting drawings and you're saying it's built to that, we need to make sure we're building them to that. Cause that becomes a long-term cost for taxpayers.
You mentioned we still needed to have some cleanup on those plans. I mean, are we still able to do that as far as what you talked about in some of those amendments we needed to change?
Yeah, I mean, we do zoning amendments here and there routinely, depending on how many. A few years ago with some of the state, there was some legislation updates that there's a lot more hoops to jump through when you redo a whole zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan as far as notifications, publications. They made it a little more burdensome. You have to notify all the communities in your county. We could still do some. It was just time to do the comprehensive plan, or we need to get on that. I've just kind of been making a list of things that need updated.
Yeah, I think the last time we held meetings in Wilton, we held them in West Liberty, and we had community involvement, and so it's been a while.
We'll have you folks appoint a planning group, you know, we'll most likely contract with like a bi-state organization for that. But I would just hate to roll it out and then have a housing study provide information that we weren't aware of, because I think it's a really good opportunity for coordination. Jody and I have had a few conversations about some of these fringe areas and the benefit of working together, being in agreement with long-term goals to avoid conflict or wasted money. So with your permission, I might have a couple conversations with her, learn a little more about this housing study myself, and
Yeah, I think it's good.
break some of the conflict and then.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any other county employees that wish to address the board at this time?
I'd like to mention that we held the 2022 post-election audit on Friday, November 18th. It was a hand count of Lake Township ballots, and it was 100% matched to the tabulator.
Very good. Thank you. Any other county employees? Seeing no one. Next is receive comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that would wish to address the board at this time? Seeing no one come forward, it is 9:28, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.